For relatives of the Israeli hostages still held in Gaza, today's extension to the truce will be measured not just in days but in lives. As many as 20 more could be freed by Wednesday. For families, it means the chance for their loved ones to join the small but growing number making that now familiar journey down into Egypt, then on into Israel, back to the waiting embrace of home. A journey made tonight by 11 more, 9 of them children. The youngest, twin 3-year-old girls released along with their mother, but their father, indeed all the fathers, remain captive. For its side of the deal, Tel Aviv released a further 33 Palestinian prisoners today and will allow more desperately needed aid into Gaza in the days ahead.
Toddler twins being carried towards freedom by their mother and a friend tonight. The latest drip feed of relief for this country saw a total of 11 Israelis handed over to the Red Cross by Hamas gunmen, one of whom pushed a child in a wheelchair. 6 Thais were also released. The 3-year-old twins, Emma and Yuli Cunio, were 2 of the 9 children among the Israelis set free. The fathers of all these kids remain hostages in Gaza. In the bombed-out northern sector of the Strip, today could be summed up as being a little bit of calm between the storms. Fearing that this was the last of the days of the truce, some Gazans chose to venture out to take advantage of the breathing space. The war hasn't spared very many or very much. This is one of the United Nations schools which were, when this all began, supposed safe havens where thousands of people sheltered. Uninhabitable and abandoned today, this is another example of their shrinking world. Some families have been returning to where their homes used to be. Grandmother Amna said, "We don't know, but getting our old lives back will be difficult." The homecomings in Israel have been very different. This is a mother who campaigned relentlessly, being reunited with her free daughters, aged 14 and 8. This is 4-year-old Abigail Idan with her aunt, uncle and grandparents. Hamas may have released the child, but they also made her an orphan, killing both her parents on October the 7th. This is Emily Hand, back in the arms of her nearest and dearest. Initially, the 9-year-old had been feared dead. Now her father has spoken for the first time about her condition.
Lost a lot of weight from her face and body, but generally doing better than we expected.
Back in Gaza, people know that whatever the next few days bring, ultimately Israel is likely to carry out its threat and resume the war that has already destroyed so many homes. Like plenty of other things on the Strip, peace and quiet are in short supply. John Irvine, News at 10, Tel Aviv.
Well, since the truce began, a total of 69 hostages, including foreign nationals and primarily women and children, have been released by Hamas. Analysis by ITV News suggests there are still 173 hostages remaining, with 8 under the age of 18, including the youngest of the captives, Kfir Babas, aged just 10 months, and his 4-year-old brother Ariel. But there are also hostages unaccounted for. According to Qatar, who are mediating negotiations, at least 40 women and children are not in the hands of Hamas. That could be because other Palestinian militants who crossed into Israel once its iron wall fences were breached on October the 7th are holding their own hostages. A fellow terrorist group, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, has previously claimed it is holding 30 of its own captives. In exchange, Israel has released 150 Palestinians from various towns and cities in the West Bank Bank held in its prisons. Well, we can return now to John, our senior international correspondent in Tel Aviv tonight. John, another 2-day ceasefire agreed, relief on both sides, not the 4 days Hamas had asked for. What could determine how and whether it could be extended? And is there space now for a real diplomatic push?
Good evening, Julie. This is, of course, particularly good news for the 20 additional Israeli hostages who should be free by this time on Tuesday night. You're right, when this extension to the truce was first mooted as a possibility last week, they were talking actually about an additional 5 days, bringing it up to Saturday. But I think the Qatari mediators decided to be less ambitious, and the two sides have agreed to this 2-day extension. It suits the Israelis because since Hamas stopped firing rockets into Israel, the only way the terror group has been able to wage war against the Israeli public is through the hostages. Now, the Israeli government decided to try to mitigate that tactic by using these circumstances to bring about the release of as many Israeli hostages as possible, even if that means extending the truce and allowing Hamas more time to regroup and to reorganize. By the way, you can probably hear these helicopters. It's actually just brought the hostages up to a hospital here in Tel Aviv. It's just going overhead. Yeah, I mean, we've got a 2-day extension, Julie. There is a possibility of a 5-day extension, but the war is going to resume. Mr. Netanyahu has made absolutely clear that Israel's going to get back into the business of prosecuting this war. It'll resume either midweek or at the weekend.
John, thank you very much indeed for that.